So far, we've talked about the potential of AI, but it's important that we also acknowledge some of the current limitations and hurdles too.
As we said, I think in every video, this technology isn't perfect, so it is really important. So there are three main limitations to developments in AI. The first one is availability of data. Complex models need sufficiently large and comprehensive varied datasets.
In some cases, this is much easier to acquire. Financial information is tracked very precisely and is freely available on the internet, for example. However, areas like self-driving cars need specific investment and recording technology to record enough data to train these models.
Tesla, I think Facebook, all the big tech companies are investing a lot of money in self-driving cars, for example, and there's a pretty large amount of controversial news if you know where to look. Additionally, in the modern world, increasingly concerned with privacy, regulations such as GDPR in Europe can make access to data more difficult.
And with insufficient data, models may be trained in a very specific environment that does not allow them to generalize well enough in production on unseen input data. This can have a massive detriment to the performance of the model.
There can also be issues with the quality of the data used to train the models. I mean, there's a saying, garbage in means garbage out. Doesn't matter how complex and clever an algorithm you use, if the data is incorrectly labeled with errors, then it's highly unlikely you'll actually get a usable model out the other end.
Possibly worse than bad data is biased data. Machines learn from information, and most of that information is in some way sourced from people. As much as we may try and stay objective about everything, people are biased by nature. And then because of this, machines can pick up on those human biases, and this can have massive ramifications. A high-profile case of this is Microsoft's Tay tweetbot.
In 2016, Microsoft released an AI chatbot onto Twitter called Tay, and it was an experiment in conversational understanding. The principal design of Tay was that it would learn through conversations on Twitter, and the ambition was that it would pick up how to hold conversations through experience. But internet trolls took a hold of this pretty quickly. Vast numbers of racist, misogynistic and offensive tweets were delivered to Tay, which duly ingested them and learned from the sentiment and content. And the same day it was released, Tay began to post offensive tweets similar to those it had received, and Microsoft had to take it offline. This is an extreme example of human bias affecting an AI model.
Even if you have enough varied data, and even if you've made sure that the data is correctly labeled, a big limitation with artificial intelligence models is actually understanding how the model reaches the decision that it does. With really complex models dealing with really complicated problems, it becomes harder and harder to understand the process the algorithm has been through. We refer to this as a black box algorithm, when we can't see inside the box to see what's happening.
A common example of this is if a computer automatically rejects you for a loan. You'll obviously want to know why you're rejected to see if there's any simple changes you could make to increase your chances of getting accepted.
And this is actually part of GDPR, so companies are required to tell you why they reject you from a loan, especially in Europe. But even simple questions like, why did this self-driving car make that left turn, can turn out to be really hard to answer. If people are going to place their trust in machines, they want some assurances that they can understand how they reach the conclusions that they do.
So we've just covered a few of the main limitations in AI today. This technology is brilliant and can be used to make people's lives happier and more productive, but it is really important to remember that these systems are not perfect and are still evolving today.